Hello ladies, welcome to chapter 3 of the Disciple Maker's Handbook. I'm glad that you guys are following along if you're reading on your own or if you missed last week, or honestly if you just wanted to kind of rewatch and think about the things that we talked about in group. I'm excited to jump in. Chapters 1 and 2 really were great for laying the theological foundation for what we're doing, which we all really easily agreed upon. But I'm really excited about chapter 3 because the conversation was much more practical and how does this look in real life, and so I'm excited to dive in with you guys. So I love how he really in this whole chapter gives an example of what he has done before. It's a bit of a different example than what we're doing here. He was specifically building one group where he was sort of the leader and he was bringing in others, multiple others as well. But the steps that he talks about of forming a group really are universal as they talk about. So those steps are listen, recruit, prepare, engage, and release. And I love that they just really easily lay out what these steps look like. And there's no specific time frame on any of them, but they each can take a varying amount of time. Listen, I love that it starts with listening to the Holy Spirit. And I kind of shared a little bit in my group on the Zoom about the experience of starting this group. And it really was that the Lord was stirring something in my heart and I had to get it out. I had to ask other people to see if this was something else that others wanted to join as well. And so it really took a lot of prayer and a lot of time and a lot of talking to others and hearing their wisdom as well in the beginning stages of this group. And so then, of course, recruit. He specifically was praying that the Lord would bring him specific people. For us as a women's discipleship group, it's really more about if you want to be a part of this, please come and be a part of this. And then as you go into pairs, that's where it really becomes a little bit more intentional about who you want to pair up with. But just being mindful of what you're looking for in someone, for the qualities for them to have. And so the acronym, well, there's lots of acronyms in this chapter, but the acronym that the author uses is AFTER, which the E doesn't mean anything, it's just AFTR, and those are available. Is this person available, willing to grow, or are they, it says distracted by other agendas, which makes it sound super like, I don't know, I didn't like that wording, but are they too busy doing other things, whether it's good or whether it's just, you know, the running of their family, whatever it is. There's different seasons of everybody's life. Are they faithful? Do they have a track record of following through on commitments? Teachable, are they open to learning new things? And reliable, do they show up when they say they will? And I think one of the most important ones in this is teachable, because I think that's something across all areas of life. If you aren't teachable, then what is a mentor to do? You know, if you aren't open to really hearing from them and even hearing from the Lord as well. We do need to be teachable from the Lord as well. I know we can sometimes kind of build up those walls against that, so we need to be very mindful that first let's ask ourselves, are we available, faithful, teachable, and reliable? And then we're looking for that in somebody to partner with. And then in preparing, I really love that this is a step, because I think that this is a step that most people kind of overlook, or what they see as preparation for starting a discipleship relationship or a group or whatever. I think that they think, okay, you know, maybe they'll go, how often are we going to meet? And then what book are we going to study, or what are we going to pray about? But instead of just doing those things, it's really setting more expectations, because everybody has more expectations, but we just don't usually lay them out there. And so it was very interesting to hear everybody's thoughts on how he wrote out a very specific covenant with the 6 or 7 guys that he was creating his group for. And I loved hearing everybody's thoughts. Some people was like, I love structure. Some people were like, this feels kind of cold. And the beauty is, this is just an example. He's not saying to do it exactly like him. And in your pairs, you have a lot of freedom. And so just know that you do not have to do it exactly like he did, but that's what I am here for, to help be a third party who can help you guys bring out those expectations that you may or may not have, verbally or writing, agree on what your group is, what's your purpose of your mentorship pair, and what's it going to look like as it grows, and even as it ends. I love that in the beginning of his group, one of the things that they do is it says, I further commit myself to, at some time in the future when Jesus lets me know that I'm ready, becoming a disciple maker and forming a group like this myself. And I think if that piece is missing, then we are just being mentored for our own personal benefit. And that is not what this is about. It is so for personal growth, but it's personal growth and disciple making, this process of continually using what we have learned to give to others, and then as we learn those things, giving those to others. So always continuing the process of passing along those lessons that the Lord has taught us, or just the situations that life has thrown at us that we can share with others who are currently going through them, or just newly on the other side. So step 4 is engage. So all of these other steps previously have been listening to the Spirit. It took a long time for me, many months of just praying and listening and not really sure what concretely the Lord was asking me to do. I wasn't sure if he was asking me to do a retreat or to do some sort of, one of the thoughts that I had was some sort of virtual week-long retreat where everybody was zooming in from their homes every morning to kind of do quiet time together. So that's definitely still something we could do if y'all are interested in. But this is women's discipleship is what happened. Recruiting was reaching out to the people who went to one of the Stonebridge women's events, and I got such a good response. I think it was like 30 out of 70 women replied, yes, I would love to hear more about this opportunity, and we've continued to grow since then. So then recruit, prepare. That's really the stage that we're in now, of really getting ready to be in pairs. And I think that's the reason I really wanted to do this book. And I think that that's why the Lord brought it up for me, was that we really want to be mindful and come into it with some intentionality into our pairs. And then step 4, engage. This is just the week to week or bi-weekly, however often you are thinking about meeting with somebody. This is once you've found your person, and I think that I kind of talk about that in like there's one, it's not like there's some soulmate mentor out there for you and you have to find that one. For real, it could be anybody. There's so many women in our church who would love to pour into you, and it's not going to be perfect anyway. So do not stress about finding the perfect partner, because we know that that does not exist. For those of us who are married, that isn't how it goes. So love it. God has somebody for you, or somebodies, who would all be great. So step 4 is engage, just how often you're going to be getting together, what that's going to look like. And the one thing that really I loved about this chapter was that he was sent an email from one of his group mates who said, this is how this group has changed my life. Thank you so much. And we don't mentor for the thank you, but this is huge to show that it has accomplished its goal. That he, in the beginning of the chapter, says how lonely he was, how separated he was, how he was doing all the Christian things, especially because he was in a position where that was expected of him in his job, but he did not have the life going on that he really needed inside. And so you can have it if you work for it. You do have to open yourself up to relationships, be vulnerable in sharing, be bold in your friendships, be intentional in keeping in contact, and it definitely can make a difference. But he says, life change is great, but disciple making is even better. So we definitely want to turn all of that great life change into continuing for that person then to give it as well. And that leads us into the last step, which is release. And I love that, again, this is the purpose of it, and really realizing that however you did mentorship, if you are the mentor, then they're going to do it a little bit differently, and that's a good thing. So definitely don't expect people to do things exactly the same. I am here to help us have a good foundation to bounce off of, but not here to provide an exact program. It's really more of a general framework and support system for you guys as you are mentoring with one another. But then it's releasing them out to do the same. And so I love that he addresses that. And the last thing, I know this video has already gotten so long, I can't believe it, but I love the little pyramid. Let's see if we can see the little funnel of groups of people. And it talks about it in terms of Jesus and the people that he came in contact with. So there was Jesus in the crowds, Jesus in the 70, Jesus in the 12, Jesus in the 3, and Jesus in the Father. And I never would have thought if somebody asked me to create this funnel that I would do Jesus in the Father or, Jesus in myself, or I really just love that he had the intuition to include that. And I think sometimes we try to make different contexts. We try to create a level of intimacy in a context where it's not best suited. And so for us, public is basically the entire church. But social context is a group of about 20 to 70 who meet for a common purpose and to develop interpersonal relationships. So that is women's discipleship as a whole. And as you move into, of course, if you move past small groups in the personal context, which is about 8 to 15 people, you get to the transparent context. And that is a group of just a handful of people. I think they say like up to 6, where you can really be going deep with people, opening up, talking about real things, and people can get to know you really well, enough so that they can see when something's going on with you. They know the questions to ask. They know the prayer requests that you've been saying over and over again, and they can really keep in touch with you about those things and really encourage you or share when you are kind of getting off the path. So that is really what we're going for with the transparent groups, is groups of 2 or 3, maybe even 4. It says up to 6, but honestly, whatever people God calls to you, then meet with them and see how that goes. So I love that is what we're looking for. For Jesus, it was Peter, James, and John who were his inner circle people. So that is really what I have for you. It's so exciting to be going through the process of this myself along with you guys. As you guys know, my mentor moved out of town, and then I was actually asked the other day by Terry to explore this relationship. And I love using the word explore, and she and I agree that that's really what we're doing. We have not signed ourselves away to one another from the first moment of invitation to discipleship. And so she came over for lunch 2 weeks after, the invitation, and we just had lunch together, and we just talked about what we each are kind of wanting in this group, or getting out some of those expectations of how often might we meet and what might we focus on. Oh, there was one more thing. Sorry guys, I know, keep going. But one last thing. Some groups will emphasize Bible study, some will emphasize prayer, some will emphasize relationship, some confession, some mission. So I think all groups will be a mixture of those things, but you really should take a look at those things and say, what is it that is our number 1 or our number 2 that our group is wanting to focus on? So that's really something, just a conversation between the two of you. And it really is an exploration phase. You do not have to move forward with everybody who invites you into, because what if 2 people ask you at once, It really, I know that it's gonna get messy. It just is. Sometimes it's not gonna work out, and that is okay, but let's please be Christian adults and just be honest with one another. And if you feel the Lord leading you in another direction, have honest conversation with them. It is not the end of the world. And please don't use God as a crutch and say, I feel God leading me in another direction. If there is something else going on, please just be honest about it, okay, ladies? And I do not want you guys to feel stressed like, oh my gosh, I need to find a partner. The Lord will bring them to you in the right timing. Use the steps, listening to the Spirit first. That's for everybody individually. Listening to the Spirit and preparing. And then as you find that person, having those conversations. So once you find that somebody, definitely chat with me or with Kim at church just to get those expectations out on the table, because it is going to be great while it lasts, and at some point it's going to change how it looks, or it's going to end. And the end is not bad. It just means that you're moving into a new season and that God probably has somebody else for you to connect with. So I am excited for Michelle, my previous mentor, as she has moved away, and I'm excited for the things that she's doing, and we are still great friends. That is the key, staying friends. And now Terry has this whole other world to offer me that I would not have even been prepared for 2 years ago. So anyway, if you have stuck around this long, thank you. Congrats. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in to this. I am really hoping that this book will help lay a good foundation for you and just start stirring some things in your heart.